Today in this lecture we will talk about the salt appetite mechanism for controlling extracellular fluid sodium concentration and extracellular fluid volume. This is the last lecture of this chapter. After that we will start the new chapter, but it's important to discuss that why the salt appetite mechanism is important for controlling the extracellular fluid volume as well as extracellular fluid sodium concentration. So normally there is a balance between the sodium intake and sodium that is excreted. Balance is normally required. And how the kidneys are important, because we are discussing the renal system, so we discuss the kidneys and the role of kidneys in maintaining in all these functions of the body. So normally the intake of the sodium is around 100 to 200 milliequivalent per day, but the normal body requirement is around 10 to 20 milliequivalent per day. So it means that we are consuming far more sodium per day as compared to the required. It means that the extra sodium that we consume should be removed from the body. It should be excreted. Kidneys have a role in excreting the extra sodium that we consume daily, but the salt appetite mechanism is important for obtaining the salt. And salt appetite simply means the drive to obtain salt. Now this drive, it may be in normal circumstances, because the animals or the human beings, they normally want to consume more salt than required, and that's the salt appetite. But also there are certain conditions, for example in Addison's disease, in which there is salt deficiency. In Addison's disease there is severe deficiency of aldosterone, which leads to a lot of salt wasting, and there is a lot of volume loss. There is decrease in the extracellular fluid volume. So this condition leads to salt craving or increase in the salt appetite, and it leads to increased consumption of the salt. So the purpose is to maintain the balance between intake and excretion. So in this condition, in Addison's disease, in which there is a lot of loss, extra loss of salt, there is salt craving. There is increase in the salt appetite to take high amount of sodium, because there is a lot of loss in the urine. And normally we are consuming 5 to 10 times more salt than required. So normally there is a lot of excretion of salt, and this function is with the help of this excess salt is removed with the help of kidneys, and then conservation of the salt is also with the help of kidneys or the renal system. Now the stimuli for the salt appetite. Now the kidneys can only conserve, or it can only remove the extra salt, but once there is a big deficiency, then the extra salt can only be taken with the help of food, and there should be an appetite, there should be a drive to take in more salt. And that stimuli for the salt appetite, it comes from the brain, and it normally comes from the same parts of the brain which is driving the thirst center. So the neuronal centers for the salt appetite are mostly present near the AV3V area of the human brain, and the stimuli that increases the salt appetite center are the same as that stimulates the thirst center. So normally the decrease in the extracellular fluid sodium, the decrease in extracellular volume, and decrease in blood pressure will activate thirst center. It will activate the thirst center, or it will activate the neurons in the AV3V area, which will ultimately lead to activation of the thirst center and increasing water. But the same center has the neurons for the salt appetite as well. The neurons in the AV3V area near the thirst center are involved in the salt appetite, in the same reflexes which leads to increase in fluid consumption, also involved in increasing sodium consumption. And the same stimuli, the decrease in sodium, the decrease in volume, and decrease in blood pressure, which activates these centers which activates the thirst center, are involved in activation of the salt appetite center in the brain as well. So that's all about the salt appetite mechanism for controlling the extracellular fluid sodium concentration and blood volume. And it simply means that normally when we are consuming extra sodium, the extra sodium is lost through the kidneys. But in conditions in which there is deficiency of salt in the human body, then the salt appetite becomes important, and it becomes important with the help of the centers in the human brain, especially in the neuronal centers in the AV3V area, and some reflexes like the deficiency of salt, the decrease in blood volume, and the decrease in the blood pressure, arterial pressure, they become important in consuming extra salt. So that's all about salt appetite mechanism.